Alright. I'm seeing a lot of posts in the forums about people that are struggling with Crucible. This is my Winnie the Pooh build. It uses a wooden sword. It's just fully upgraded. It has the lifesteal gem on it. Most important thing with No Rest for the Wicked is to remember that it's not just a Souls-like. It is an ARPG. And as such, your build matters. This is a mediocre build. But what matters the most are your enchantments. You use Fallen Embers. On an Xbox controller, you press Y. You then navigate over to the item that you want to re-roll the enchantment on. And if it's a plagued item, you can have up to 5 enchantments. You can add up to 5 enchantments. So if it's a plagued item that only has 2 enchantments on it, you can use Fallen Embers to add the additional 3. And then you can use it to re-roll existing enchantments. And so you want to save your Fallen Embers. You want to save as many as you can. You want to farm them. And you use them to re-roll your enchantments. This is an ARPG. Your enchantments will make your build or break it. It's the single most important thing that the new players are missing. Moon Studios has done a horrible job at explaining the Fallen Ember re-rolls on this. I'm guessing eventually they're going to have a table where you have to go to the table in order to do it, because players are not realizing you can use Fallen Embers to do it. So the table will probably still use Fallen Embers as a currency, but I can't see them not doing something like that because players are missing it. So this is an ARPG. It's not just a Souls-like. Once you get the correct enchantments on your build, you're going to be able to sail through Crucible. You're going to see this. I'm not going to be using any OP items here. I'm not going to be using the Ring of Determination or anything like that. I'm not even going to be using runes. All I'm going to be using are regular echoes, which you just get as you're going through. And you're going to see this is not hard. I think what players are trying to do is they're trying to treat this like a Souls game, where all you got to do is you just go to the blacksmith, you upgrade your sword, and then you just add your attribute points and you're ready to go. Put your gems in your gem slots. This is an ARPG. You have to have the right enchantments on your gear, and you do that. Once you get that in your head, you'll be fine. This is a wooden sword. And I am not going to be trying to do a run where I take hardly any damage. I'm going to be face tanking stuff. I'm not going to be wasting my time trying to dodge unless it's necessary. The worst part of Crucible is fall damage. I do believe that the floors need some rework still to reduce the number of chasms and stuff, because for a roguelike, I do not consider fall damage, that one-shots you, to be really that acceptable. But as you can see, I am just face-tanking everything. I am not even trying. It's an ARPG, folks. This is an ARPG with Souls-like combat in it. Alright, this is not hard. So no insult to the players that are struggling. This is Moon Studios' fault for not explaining how to get good enchantments on your gear. Moon Studios is 100% to blame for that, and I'm confident they're going to fix it. They're going to eventually explain that better, so those of you who are good players that are still struggling, who haven't been shown how to do good enchantments, are going to be able to get a good build, because Moon Studios will eventually show you how to do it by explaining how the friggin' Fallen Embers work. So I don't know why they haven't done a better job of that up to this point, but I would venture to say that 90% of players don't know about Fallen Embers. It baffles me why Moon Studios has not addressed that sooner. But whatever. hopefully now people that are watching this know. Let's get a few goodies on here. Normally I do not even use echoes. Because I enjoy the additional challenge at the Echo Knight. And I do have some OP builds that use the Ring of Determination and everything, but I enjoy builds like this that are mediocre. And I can guarantee that for those of you who don't know about Fallen Embers, this build is OP compared to your builds. Because you haven't been taught. And that is entirely on Moon Studios. And thankfully, that's what being an early access game is. That they're going to learn that they haven't done a good job of explaining the enchantment process, and they'll fix it. I'm confident that Thomas and his team will fix it. And I cannot stress enough, I am a mediocre Souls player. I struggle in Elden Ring and in Dark Souls and in Demon Souls and in Sekiro and things like that. I struggle with it. I'm not too familiar with Bloodborne. I've played it a little bit, but not extensively. But I am a mediocre Souls player. And I've got builds that will sail through this in half the time that you're seeing right now. But I prefer having a little bit of a challenge. But as you see, I'm playing this as an ARPG. I am not playing this as a Souls game right now. I am tanking stuff. I'm not dodging. I'm just plowing through stuff. And I've got mesh armor on. This is not plate armor. More levels need ledge protection like this one have. More of the floors need this ledge protection because that's something that I think would help a lot of the less experienced players, would be more ledge protection like what you see here. That in a roguelike dungeon, I do not think it's a good idea to have one-shot things that can kill you in one shot. And fall damage in this game can do that. And in the game world, that's fine. When you're playing the campaign, when you're out in the game world, that's fine. But when you're in a roguelike, I do not think it's a good idea to have too much fall damage that, you fall off the cliff and you're dead. I just, in a roguelike dungeon, I don't think that's a good idea. So, like right here, if I fall off the ledge, then all the work I've done up to this point is for naught. And I really don't think that's a good idea in a roguelike. In a game world, that's fine, but we are in a dungeon right now that if you die, you start at the beginning, and I am just not a fan of how they have chosen to use the excessive fall damage aspects of this game in the Crucible floors. Alright, so we're about to fight the Echo Knight. I'm just gonna, normally I wouldn't do this, but I'm just gonna load up on Echoes. I should have been doing this sooner, but that's okay. Okay, let's give it a try. We'll just use a little blade oil. We'll give ourselves a little health boost here. Alright, you dodge right now. Normally I'd be a little more careful than I'm being right now. But since I've got all of the echoes, I don't have to be as careful. So normally I'd be more careful dodging him and things like that. Like right now I'm in a dangerous spot. That was a little bit of a close one, but that's okay. If I was being more careful, I wouldn't have probably needed to chug any food at all. And that's that. So I will go to get my loot here, and then we'll go back to the serum chamber, and I'll show you the build real quick. So had a bit of a close call there, but that's because I was being careless. You can go through the Echo Knight without having to chug any food at all, even without using echoes and stuff like that. It can be done. That doesn't mean you don't take damage, unless you're like one of the best players in the world, but when you have lifesteal, you usually, if you're good, you can avoid chugging any food at all. Alright. So let's show you the build. Using the wooden sword, using the fallen embers, again, very important. I've rolled the damage increase 30% against large enemies. That helps against bosses and stuff like that. That's generally a good thing to use if you're using a melee build. Another good enchantment would be attack speed increase enchantment of 15%. And again, once you roll it, you go to the Watcher to max it out to turn it yellow. It doesn't matter what the value is that you roll, is just as long as it's the correct enchantment. Gain 10% health on kill just helps you go through the mobs without having to dodge. All right, that's the ARPG aspect of this, where you don't need to play it like a Souls-like. You can just plow through stuff when you have the right enchantments on. Item weight decrease, all that does, I have that on every item. I've rolled that on every item. It just allows me to put more points into dexterity so I have more damage output. The shield, nothing fancy. Just using a physical damage increase rune because we're using a physical damage build. And as you can see, you can pause the video and look at the enchantments here. Here's the helmet. Most important enchantment is the damage taken decrease. So on all of your armor pieces, you want damage taken decrease. As you can see, all the armor pieces have it. So on the helmet, healing increase, that supposedly helps with lifesteal as well, but it's mostly just so your food is more effective. Stamina recovery is a good one to run when you're using a melee build. There's the pants. You'll notice on the gloves here, physical damage increased by 25%. That's a good one if you're using a physical build. They gain 40 stamina on staggering an enemy. Not... When I first rolled that enchantment, I was using a two-handed paddle. And so it was more useful on that. So I probably would need to re-roll that if I wanted to optimize the build further, because that's not really useful for the wooden sword. And here's the armor. You'll notice all of the negatives are focus related because this is a melee build, and so focus means nothing to me on this build. Normally on a focus-based build, it's okay to have drain focus in combat, even for a focus-based build, but the other focus ones you wouldn't want to have. But normally on a focus-based build, it's like drain health in combat would be a good negative to have, or a combination of unrepairable and then indestructible enchantments, but then you're kind of wasting the purpose of having a plagued item. So here's the attributes. 28 health, 14 stamina. We use the crow ring to really boost our stamina to 110 points that you see in general there. But we only really need 4 points in stamina. And that just allows me to be careless with stamina. Again, ARPG. It doesn't have to be played like a Souls-like. If you get things rolled correctly, you can plow through stuff. You don't need to be dodging and rolling again, and parrying every enemy. So just enough equip load to get us in the normal class, and the fewer points that we have in that, the better, because that's why we have the item weight decrease on all of our items. So that's the build. Nothing fancy, very mediocre. As you can see, I didn't struggle with that as a mediocre player, and this is largely Moon Studios' responsibility to explain the Fallen Embers. I don't remember how many hours I had in the game before I learned that I could use Fallen Embers to re-roll enchantments, but it was a fair number of hours. It was something like 40 hours before I finally realized that I could use Fallen Embers to re-roll enchantments. So maybe I'm just stupid, but something tells me, based on what I've seen in the forums, that there are a lot of other players that don't know. And that, again, is Moon Studios' fault. They will fix it, I'm confident. This is an early access game, but once you've learned that, you're not going to struggle in Crucible. Once you've learned how to roll good enchantments, and then as long as you're at level 30 and that you've cleared some pestilence outbreaks to get some of the goodies that you take to the Watcher and then exalt your gear, you're not going to have any struggles going through Crucible. It becomes very redundant. I've done at least 100 runs through Crucible. It's probably approaching 150 now, and it's to the point now. All I care about is just the challenge. So I go through Crucible with no echoes, just so I have a better chance of dying. And on this run, I actually did almost die because I was being careless. But normally I'm a lot more careful at the Echo Night. But anyway, that's all I have. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So peace out.